Is the golden age of personal development over? I'm Ruth Kudzi. This is the Coaching Hub. And today I'm talking about personal development gurus and what I have seen changing in the landscape over the last decade. When I first started learning about self-help, I was in my early 20s, so quite a long time ago. And I don't think at that point, or as far as I know, there weren't the gurus that seemed to emerge about 15, 20 years ago. And what seemed to happen is that there were particular people who were being held up as being the light and the people that we all needed to follow in terms of personal development. And these people combined to have millions and millions of followers. They could sell out stadiums, and their messages were often about personal motivation, confidence, resilience, and mindset. However, over the last decade, we've seen the cracks emerging in the land of the guru. And I think that, of course, there are some situations where we have to question who were we putting on those pedestals, but we also have to question why were we putting somebody else on a pedestal. So let's start with the who first. We know in recent times, there are some people who have had a large fall from grace. Maybe we have seen clips where there have been racist comments or homophobic comments or comments against particular groups of people, or we have seen associations with others, which mean that the image and the work that someone has done has been tarnished. And I definitely think that that has happened. And I think that has impacted many people who follow these people. And often what has come to light may just be a scratch on the surface of what is going on. And of course, we have cancel culture. So many of these people are now being cancelled. So we definitely have those people who were there, who maybe there were shady things behind the scenes that got them there. And that has actually decreased confidence in all people who we've put on pedestals. So first of all, really, some people should never have been there. And probably there were shady things going on, which we see in every industry. But it becomes a little bit more unpalatable when these people have been spouting things which feel really disingenuous now that we see a different reality. We then have people that we have put on pedestals who maybe have had a fall from grace or been cancelled, that if we really reflect on are things that we may have done as well. So there is that space where maybe we are putting people onto pedestals and we are expecting that they are perfect because they can talk really eloquently about resilience or mindset. And therefore we start to think that this person is infallible and we build them up to be, the best person ever. And then when there is a crack, we tumble them down. And maybe that becomes cancel culture. What I want to say here is we need to really think about why we are putting anyone on a pedestal, why we are expecting perfection when we ourselves are not perfect. Why are we outsourcing our own thinking to other people? Why are we taking more inspiration from others than we do from what is going on in our own mind and our own body? So there is this space here where we've been part of the game. We have been putting people up on pedestals, and there's only one way to go if you're on a pedestal, and it's not further up, it is down. So I think there needs to be a personal responsibility that we take for some of these cases where we go, what was it that made me put that person in like a different sphere to the rest of humanity? If they were my friend, if it was me and I'd noticed this mistake, how would I have judged them? Because am I judging them through a lens where they're always going to fall down? So again, some people, I believe, yes, we should never have listened to them. That can become really unpalatable. Pretty much like some authors, actually stepping away from the personal development world. But we know there have been authors that have shared things or have been cancelled. And honestly, that doesn't make me want to read their books or get my children to read their books. So we know that there are other spaces that this happens in. TV presenters, etc., etc. So that fall from grace is not unique to personal development. So that's the first thing I'll say. Second of all, we need to learn that humans are humans and the human spirit is fallible. So when we are putting people onto pedestals, we need to ask ourselves why. We need to ask ourselves, what we are gaining from outsourcing our thinking. And we need to think about, is this somebody that I respect and listen to, but am I seeing them as a whole person, or am I just taking those bits that I like? And actually, if they were an economist, if they were talking about geopolitics, if they were, would these other things matter so much? So actually, because they're into personal development, does that mean they need to share all of my values? Maybe not. Maybe there are messages and there are things that they know from their wisdom and their knowledge, which actually mean that that part is relevant. And again, I'm not discounting these people that maybe are completely discredited, but there is that piece there. But I'd also say what this opens up when we step away from gurus, when we step away from people having to be this kind of perfect imaginary person who has this perfect life where everything works out. I mean, I don't know anyone who's got that. When we actually step away from the Instagram glitz and glamour, where are we actually getting our personal development ideas from? Who are we following? What are we doing and what are we outsourcing? Where is our agency? How are we learning about ourselves? So I think that personal development, in a way, has got more personal, that we've recognized that actually the people that we outsource to, maybe they weren't the experts. Maybe they weren't the best people, but maybe that has opened a door for us to start to explore about ourselves. Maybe that has started a process that has actually made us happier, made us better leaders, made us better parents, made us better siblings, made us better children. Maybe it has supported us to become better friends. So I think, in a way, let's look at what this has opened up for us, and let's think about how we can make personal development work for us. Because there's a clue here, personal. This is about what can we do to really learn about ourselves so that we can be happier, so we can be less confrontational, so that we can have more effective communication and better relationships, so we can be more compassionate and empathetic to others, so that we can be less judgmental. But equally knowing that there will be times when we're judgmental, that there will be times when we are not as compassionate, that there will be times when maybe we say something we shouldn't, or we maybe lose our temper. And that is part of us, and that is part of our growth. So I think there is a space here for acknowledging who we are and recognizing that when we are looking for perfection in others, what are we missing in ourselves? Where do we have those blind spots? Where do we not see that actually we're not finished, we're not perfect, we still have work to do? Personal development for me is about that ongoing work. It's not about a guru telling me to do something. It's about actually me learning when I have a conversation and somebody makes me feel a particular way. It's about me not responding when someone says something which lights one of the fires underneath me. It's about me recognizing when I've been wrong and saying sorry and really meaning it and wanting to do that work to change. That is personal development. So in a way, I don't really mind what these gurus are doing. I've never really been one to follow them. Again, I think I'm lucky because I'm neurodivergent. So there have been differences. And one of the gurus that, when I first started was up there on the pedestal, I remember from my early 20s. And I think she's brilliant. But equally, I know what she's like. She's not perfect. She is fallible. She is another human. And when we see others and we recognize that there are so many influences on them, and maybe they are playing a role, and maybe they've been a puppet, or maybe they've been the person running the show, but that is them. And if we are focused over there, what are we missing about ourselves? What are we missing about our own context? What are we missing about our own relationships? So yes, let's stop making people into gurus. Let's stop putting people on pedestals, but also let's start to focus on us. Let's really think about what we're doing to develop rather than always critiquing, criticizing, and cancelling. And as I said, there is a space for cancelling, but maybe not with as much glee as we often do. And we also need to think about how much resource and time we're spending worrying about others, and we're not spending controlling and influencing what we have agency over. Because we could spend all of our time looking at those who do wrong, and that's changing our filter from looking at those that do right and from what we can do and what we have agency over. I don't ever see myself as a guru. I don't think anyone else does either. I see myself as somebody who is developing and wants to develop further and is fallible and open and honest and vulnerable. And those are the people that I think I want in my life too. What is your thoughts? Is personal development alive and kicking, or is it evolving and changing? If you like what you've heard today, subscribe or follow. Or if you want to find out more about Optimus Coach Academy, head to our website. We'd love to hear from you.